Welcome to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast, Achieving Peace Through Compassion. This podcast is a recording of the Dharma Talks given during our Sunday service. This talk was given by Lama Matthew Palden Gocha.
So the Dharma talk for today is No Snake, No Rope, Smashing Reality's Grand Illusion. Long ago, 6 old men lived in a village in India. Each was born blind. Since the blind men could not see the world for themselves, they had to imagine many of its wonders. They listened carefully to the stories told by travelers to learn what they could about life outside the village. The men were curious about many of the stories. They heard, but they were most curious about elephants. And they were told that elephants could trample forests, carry huge burdens, and frighten young and old with their loud trumpet calls. The old men argued day and night about elephants. An elephant must be a powerful giant, claimed one. No, you must be wrong, argued another. The elephant must be graceful and gentle if a person is able to ride on its back. Another one said, no, you're wrong. I've heard that an elephant can pierce a man's heart with its terrible horn. The others argued, please, you are all mistaken. An elephant is nothing more than a large sort of cow. You know how people exaggerate. And one even said, I don't believe elephants exist at all. I think we are victims of a cruel joke. Well, finally, the villagers grew tired of the arguments, and they arranged for these curious men to meet an elephant. And so eager to understand, they approached it, each touching a different part of the elephant. The first blind man reached out and touched the side of this huge animal. And he declared, an elephant is smooth and solid like a wall. It must be very powerful. While the second blind man put his hand on the elephant's limber trunk. An elephant is like a giant snake, he announced. The third blind man felt the elephant's pointed tusk. I was right, he decided. This creature is as sharp and deadly as a spear. The fourth blind man touched one of the elephant's 4 legs. What have we here, he said. It's an extremely large cow. The fifth blind man felt the elephant's giant ear. I believe an elephant is like a huge fan or maybe a magic carpet that can fly over mountains and treetops, he said. And the sixth blind man gave a tug on the elephant's coarse tail. Why, this is nothing more than a piece of old rope. Dangerous indeed, he scoffed. So the sixth blind man began arguing about the elephant, each certain of their truth, none seeing the whole. So in this story, like the blind man, we all touch only fragments of existence. Reality, vast and shifting, presents itself in glimpses, a scent, a texture, a fleeting image. Is the world solid like a pillar or elusive like a rope? Is it a wall, a serpent, a carpet, or a spear? I want to share a verse from Longchenpa's Finding Rest in Illusion, and this can be found in the first chapter of that book, the second verse. And I quote, within this ground, through co-emergent ignorance, like sleep that brings forth dreams, which are like clouds of momentary illusion, and through conceptual ignorance, the mind impaired by apprehension of duality where there is no duality, there appears the various false appearances of the 6 migrations similar to dreams. End quote. So this verse describes how both dreams and waking experience arise from the same ground of awareness, the alaya, yet misperceived due to our own ignorance, like the blind men misperceiving the elephant. Let's look at dreams as a metaphor for samsaric existence. When people sleep, their awareness, conditioned by the sleeping state, manifests as dreams, which can be pleasant or frightening. These dreams do feel real while they last, yet upon awakening, they're recognized as illusory. And similarly, in the waking state, the ground expanse of all appearances, or what we think of in the Dzogchen tradition as the fundamental nature of reality, is pure awareness itself. However, due to our own co-emergent ignorance, or ma rigpa, this awareness becomes obscured. causing phenomena to appear solid, external, and independent of our mind. This is the reason why the Dzogchen Rinpoche states in chapter 23 on magical display in his book, Meditation for Modern Madness, that we live in an illusory world and we have to break habit of believing in it. We need to break the habit of believing in the relative intellectual mind. We are very much part of this illusion because we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch things, but fail to recognize that they are not real. We can understand this with this analogy of dreams, end quote. So in Long Chenpa's verse, he identifies two kinds of ignorance. The first, co-emergent ignorance. This is the innate failure to recognize appearances as self-expressions of our awareness. The second type is conceptual ignorance. This is the intellectual reinforcement of duality, splitting experiences into a perceiver, I, and then the perceived object, the world. And this dualistic misperception is what generates our illusory world, much like how dreams create convincing but unreal scenarios. Again, Dzogchen Rinpoche says in that chapter 23, our belief the illusion is real is the root of all of our problems, end quote. So Dzogchen's radical claim is that all perception is like this. And let's try an experiment right now. Just take a moment and pause. Listen to the sounds all around you. Are they out there? Or are they appearing in your mind? Now feel your body. Is it solid? Or is it just sensations of solidity, tightness, tingling? This thing that we label me. The sound you hear isn't outside. It's a sound appearing in awareness. The sensation you feel isn't yours. It's a cloud passing through the empty sky of mind's awareness. I want to return to the Dzogchen Rinpoche's book, and he says, we need to regard ignorance, attachment, and hatred, the three poisons at the center of the spinning cycle of samsara, as a magical illusion, because emotions are baseless, rootless, and groundless. If you feel angry, recognize and ask yourself, where does this anger come from? Where does it stay? Where does it go? It comes from nowhere, it dwells nowhere, and it goes nowhere. And when you see this, your anger will dissolve by itself. In Dzogchen, our suffering is not the problem. Our real problem is failing to recognize that illusion is illusion, end quote. I want to share another quote. This comes from a text called Self-Liberating Meditation by Patrul Rinpoche. And I'm going to use the example of anger from his text. And he says, and I quote, in emptiness, there is no anger. It is through delusion that anger arises. Without delusion, look into the one who feels angry. Look and sustain that without distraction. Anger is cleared away and becomes emptiness. Rest without distraction in this emptiness experience. That is the total purification of anger. There is no patience higher than this. For the yogi who realizes it, imoho, how amazing, end quote. And so this state of luminosity, the natural clarity of our mind, obscured by conceptualization. In this pure state, appearances arise as the play of awareness itself, like reflections of the moon in 1,000 lakes. However, when veiled by ignorance, these appearances solidify into a seemingly external world. And so the analogy of dreaming is precise. Just as a dreamer believes in their dream until awakening, sentient beings mistake samsara appearances for reality until they recognize their true nature. So ask yourself, your enemy It's just a reflection. Your anger, another reflection. Your problems, just the ripples on the water. So instead of suppressing or indulging in thoughts like anger, we can turn our awareness back upon itself, investigating who exactly is angry. Is there a solid I behind the emotion? When we search, we find no fixed self, only a flow of thoughts and sensations. And this is key. Non-distracted mindfulness. And by resting in bare awareness, anger is seen as empty from the beginning, like a wave that dissolves back into the ocean. And when anger is met with pure awareness, it loses its power. It doesn't vanish in the sense of being repressed. Rather, its illusory solidity unfolds into spaciousness. This is not a conceptual understanding, but a direct experience. Anger's energy is recognized as empty luminosity. Now, I used anger in this example, but this can apply to any emotion or sensation that we're feeling. But it's important that we understand that here the practice shifts from doing, analyzing, controlling, to being, allowing the mind to remain naturally in its true state, free from fixation. Dzogchen Rinpoche gives us an example in this chapter, and I quote, "For example, some people are afraid of snakes. You might see a black rope at night and think it's a snake. Then you warn your friends and make everyone afraid of the snake. It looks like a snake, so everybody has this fear. Then someone takes a flashlight and shines it on the rope. Now everyone can see it's just a rope. The fear of the snake is gone. Where was the snake? In the rope or in your mind?" The relative view is to see that the rope is not a snake. The rope is just a rope. That is right view because it cuts through fear. To believe the rope is a snake is the nature of samsara. Television and social media are all telling you the rope is a snake, so be careful. When you realize the rope is not a snake, you are not confused anymore. You can see the relative as it is. We can also examine this on a deeper level and ask, is that really a rope? No, it's not even a rope. That is also an illusion. The genuine view is to see that the rope is not even a rope. Forget about it being a snake. It is to be able to say, I am not there. My mind is not there. The rope is not there. We usually just believe these things exist. This is how we are confused. Once you have this view, there's nothing to worry about. You cut through the belief that the rope is real. The fear that the rope is a snake will also be gone. You will recognize everything as illusion, end quote. The snake never existed outside the mind. The fear was projected onto an innocent object. But even the rope is an illusion. It has no inherent independent existence. There's no snake, no rope. All are empty appearances, like dreams. So when you stop believing the reality of appearances, you are able to smash reality's grand illusion. I want to end with the last verse from that first chapter from Longchenpa's work, Finding Rest in Illusion. May all the dreamlike beings in samsara, who strayed from their primordial pure nature, gain freedom from the four great streams of sorrow. May they reach the state endowed with all qualities of great bliss. I hope that this talk has been beneficial to you. This week, may you have compassion, wisdom, gratefulness, and joy.
Thank you for listening to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast. Music was provided by Barefoot Bran Music. Please consider supporting the Rime Buddhist Center by making a donation at our website at www.rimecenter.org/donate.